Let's look at verbal reasoning part. So how to approach it, how to prepare for it, how to start doing it.
So there is basically the syllabus is very clearly defined. It is only RC and critical reasoning. Now RCs, you might have practice for RCs from your CAT preparation. So that definitely does translate quite a bit into the skill over here. You will need to understand the RC, understand the passage, know how to approach certain kind of questions. The only thing that I will actually mention over here is that the questions are slightly different. Like basically in the entire exam,
RCs are smaller, right? The passages for GMAT?
The passages are 400 words or lesser, 300 to 400 words. So it's lesser than the 500 words that come in CAT. So it's smaller, it's easier to read. They are more business oriented. They are more practical, pragmatic, rather than like you won't get philosophical RCs or something like that.
That's what CAT will test on.
You won't get completely, so it would be mostly current affairs related, something that a business person is expected to know about. So it's much more easier to read. It's a simpler RC. The cause-effect relationships are much more evident. It's not a complicated RC as such. Okay. To understand and answer questions is also not difficult. Basically, I made a mistake in my RC section. I think in my entire test, I got one question wrong in DI and I got two questions wrong in RC. And RC is basically the two questions that I got wrong in RC were the same question. What is the main point of this passage? Okay. Now, when you say what is the main point of the passage in terms of CAT, okay, you're looking at the overall purpose behind the passage. Yeah. So that is what I marked. What is the overall purpose behind the passage? What is the main message that the author is trying to convey? But in terms of GMAT, it is much more exact. It is more narrowly defined. So basically what I would suggest is that the skills tested are similar, but the questions and the required answer for the questions might be slightly different for GMAT than for CAT. Okay. So when you are asked for CAT, for example, you are asked what can be inferred. So you have to be very exact. Can this be inferred? Can this exactly be inferred? Or how much of it can be inferred? So that same doesn't translate to GMAT, where GMAT, the type of questions and the type of answers expected do not exactly map onto CAT questions exactly. So if you have done CAT preparation, you have to just be very careful about these specific questions which are slightly different in their orientation than CAT.
Okay. So that's there. So there's a difference in approach. Yeah. So when it comes to the main point thing that you talked about, the author would only aim at one single point, right? I want this message to be passed on to the public who is reading it.
Yeah. But see, basically what happens is that in CAT, you have a broader RC. You have a broader message. Essentially, if you are, for example, if the RC is about the flaws in a particular policy, somebody has written about the new education policy, they have highlighted all the flaws in the education policy. Now, if the options are to highlight the issues with the education policy, or one of the options is to argue that the new education policy is flawed and should be reworked. Okay. When you're considering from a CAT perspective, the message is always broader. You have to not look at the details, but look at the overall message that the person is giving. In terms of RCs in GMAT, you have to be actually narrow in your scope. You have to look exactly what is he saying and stick to just what he's saying. You can't then say that, okay, he's asking for to repeal the NEP. He's not saying that. You have to essentially say that he has highlighted three issues with the NEP. Just be very, very exact, be very, very constrained in scope. Because the passages are also very different. Here they're looking for somebody who can understand and read between the lines. In terms of CAT, in terms of GMAT, you need exactness. So if he has said exactly this, you have to put exactly that.
Okay, so CAT also has question like which of the following is most likely.
Yeah. Then you're like you're in speculative territory with CAT, right? What is the author likely to agree with? Which will he not agree with? Okay, so all of that is slightly speculative, which is not the tone taken by GMAT at all.
Students also argue with in terms of like, how can you surely say this guy will agree with
that's the point, right? Because they are trying to remove the subjectivity to an extent. So GMAT is not a subjective exam. So here you can argue that, no, I felt that the author is giving this message. There you can't do that. You have to be very, very exact. See, he has said 1, 2, 3 things. So that's why the answer is he has said 3 things are wrong with this. So here, in fact, you have to be as the option which introduces subjectivity would not be the correct answer.
Okay.